Okay, so I have a book of fables that was provided by the school. It's a set of books. However, it's written in Old English. So I'm using that as an introduction because there's The Boy Who Cried Wolf in there, and that's a very familiar fable. So I want to open it up with something that they know. Then I searched and scoured the internet for more English friendly. I don't know how else to describe that. But they're written in everyday English fables so that I can ensure that there's not a loss of understanding due to the Old English being used. I'm also using famous sticky notes. Sticky notes are easy and good for me to use because they're accessible. You can move around. I don't have to have big giant chart papers. I don't have to have kids getting thousands of papers. And they also have a clipboard that's provided. It's one of their supplies that's provided to them at the beginning of the year. So these artifacts are used because they're the mobility. That's specifically why I chose these artifacts, because the students will be coming from their desk to a seminar or a circle area, and I need them to be able to move quickly, and I don't want anything to be lost or misplaced. So that's why I chose those artifacts specifically for this lesson. I also created a template, to allow them structure in creating their fable. I just created it because I knew exactly what I was looking for as far as what I want the outcome to be. So I wanted to give them a little bit of structure so it wasn't just them trying to figure out, oh, what am I going to write about? Basic things like in the template would say something like, choose your character, pick an animal for your character, what would be your theme? And I gave them some choices of like ideas that they could think about, and then basically beginning, middle, end, what happened, and then the big question is how can you prove, how did your character learn this lesson that you set before them? And I also created a rubric to kind of balance out, or to make sure that they're meeting the standard, and the rubric is connected directly to the standard. So chose these materials, like I said previously, because of the accessibility of them. Now, that was the number one. That was my main focus, because they will have to be able to move to and from, like they have to go from a group to a large group to back to a small group, back to a large group, back to it, and then independently. And I didn't want them to lose anything in the place. In the meantime. The template I created because I wanted to provide some support, because this is not a lesson about can you write a story. This is a lesson about can you find the main idea of something that you created. So I needed to tailor it so that it matched what I was actually assessing. Well, sticky notes have always been my go-to, especially when you're doing something like main idea. When you're trying to get students to take something big and make it small, the worst thing that I found in the past is to give them a full sheet of paper, because then they want to fill up the paper or just write forever. The sticky note kind of forces them to narrow it down because the space itself is limited. There aren't lines on the paper either, because I want them to kind of be free. I used to use line sticky notes, and again, I would get these long drawn out sentences and paragraphs. They would just try to write really small. So the sticky notes kind of force them to narrow down their thinking by the sheer size, the limits that the size of the sticky note places. I really like the fables that were written in what I call kid-friendly language, because I remember as a child struggling with this, whether it be in church, reading a poem, anything like this. I wouldn't get it because it would be, it's written in Old English. I don't hear this language often. I don't hear that type of language often, and so it was kind of hard to decode. So the teacher who actually translated a lot of these fables into kid-friendly language, I'm right on for her, because that provided me the materials that I needed to reach these kids. Well, they use them all day, every day in the classroom. So the clipboard we call it our portable desk. I call it a clipboard to you, but the students call it their portable desk. We use it all the time, all day, every day, because I need them to have that mobility. There's one of me, there's 23 of them, so I need them to be able to move, and I need them to be able to bring what they need. So it's meaningful to them because they use it. It's almost like a cornerstone in our classroom. They use those clipboards. Sticky notes, we use them all the time, whether it be to define something or to write down an idea, or if you have a question in the middle of a lesson or a presentation, they use the sticky notes right then and there so that they don't forget what it is that they want or what they're thinking about. Again, this is something that we started at the beginning of the year, so they're very familiar with how all the different ways that they can utilize these materials, and it's become an asset for them as well as for me.